Now give me a sec before you take off and say, what's this whacker job on about again? Because the way it goes down like this is, right, what if I told you you can make a fossil in 24 hours? A genuine fossil. Nanu, Mark calling Mindy, come in Austin. I mean, beam me up, Scotty. I mean, what the fuck? Somebody do something around here. Boom, so how's she coming, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, how are we getting on today? This majestic day, that's right, this majestic day. Beam me up, Scotty. Bring me on, Mark and Mindy, Nanu, how's she cutting? Anyway, lads, how are we getting on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? So today, I'm going to do a little video, try to keep it under 10-15 minutes long, again, for educational purposes, alright? Things first, to terminate my old channel that I had open since 2010. And had hundreds of videos on that and hundreds of hours of research, right? Because I don't put something out unless I research the ins and outs of it first. And you have to go back to the very beginning. If you really want to know the truth about something you're researching, you got to go way back, right? The more you have, the more knowledge you have, the more you're able to speak on certain subjects that you mightn't be able to speak on if you didn't have the knowledge, obviously. So back to it. So millions and billions and trillions and quadrillions, alright lads? Just a lot of billions and trillions gets thrown around, you know, from the time you go to school. Now, I want you to keep this in mind, right? When you go to school / the fishery, swim in there like good fishing, don't be think you're going anywhere. You're not swimming off up no river free thought. Get in there to the fishery and button it for a buster roll with a boat. That's the fishery for you. So anyway, now, certain things you do need to learn in school, but there's a lot of shit in school that they push into children's head. There's no need for it. Stuff you adults shouldn't even be thinking about, not to mind children, right? You know what I mean? So basically, anyway, billions and millions and trillions and billions of years ago, and millions and billions and trillions and billions of light years away. So if you want to kind of fool someone into something, right, and you know he wouldn't be able to prove it, well, you'd say it was millions and millions of years ago. As in human terms, you might say, that was 30, 40 years ago. I can't remember, not remember, but I happen to take my word for it. So then they got to take your word for it, right, supposed to be. And no one else witnessed it, no, only yourself supposed to be. Right, thinking, what is he on about now? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm on about. When you want to control people, from the time you're a child, you're told billions of miles away, millions of years ago, right? Keep that in mind. Now, as Christians, when we go to school, we are taught that God created the world. He spoke, right? Spoke it into existence. Kind of like evil, when they do evil shit, they speak stuff into satanic verses into existence, and voila, up appears a demon of sorts, right? You think I'm bullshitting, and you think that's fairy tale stuff, then you need to wake the fuck up, right? You need to wake the fuck up. You the sleeping duck. If you think what I'm talking about is fairy tale stuff, it is you who needs to wake up. I've been through the mill, I know the crack, I've seen it all, I took it all in, and I realised it's all bullshit, 90% of what they tell us. Bullshit! They're not having a clue, or else they make up lies to control us, right? Like one of their things is, if you can't give something, if you don't know what something is, or how, give it a name. And once you give it a name, then the next person that hears of it will think, oh, you must know something about it, because you named it, even though you mightn't have the first fucking iota what you're talking about. So back in school, when you go to school, right, you're taught about millions of years ago. Now, one class is telling you about God and religion, Christianity, creation, which I believe in, all right, thousands of years, not millions of years. Like, do I believe in dinosaurs? Yes. But was it millions of years ago? No. Right, it was thousands of years ago, and dinosaurs walked with man, and man harnessed dinosaurs. No more different than the harness an elephant, all right, or anything like that, right? Or horses, or bulls. Right, they harnessed these. Not all dinosaurs were out there fucking ate the back off you. Right? A lot of them dinosaurs ate grass like cows and elephants. Look at the biggest animals we have on the planet. They literally eat leaves off the trees, alright? Giraffes, elephants, hippos, all leaves and vegetation, alright? So you could tame certain animals, right? Certain dinosaurs, right? And they were here thousands of years ago, not millions of years ago. Now give me a sec before you take off and say, what's this whacker job on about again? Because the way it goes down like this is, right, what if I told you can make a fossil in 24 hours? A genuine fossil.
watch many of them shake their head in disbelief when you tell them the scientific fact. A day. Yes, that's right. Fossils have been made in a laboratory in 24 hours, mimicking naturally occurring fossils to a T. This news was published in a secular article from the University of Bristol called "Creating Synthetic Fossils in the Lab Sheds Light on Fossilization Processes," which mentions that the experimental samples, or what they refer to as synthetic fossils, are compared to real fossils, supposedly thousands or millions of years old, and they were basically identical. The article described their similarity as not just superficial in nature, not just visually, but also microscopically, as revealed using a scanning electron microscope. Scientists even found that just as in the naturally occurring fossils, the 24-hour fossils contained preserved microscopic pigment-bearing structures called melanosomes that reside within the organic films in feathers and lizards treated, while unstable protein and fatty tissues degrade and are lost. This experiment, accomplished using a hydraulic press, shows that under the right conditions, fossils can form very rapidly rather than taking millions of years.
Right, so you gotta know the crack. What they do is they'll tell you millions and millions of years ago, but they won't let you, they won't question it. They just say, here, this is how it went down, and you're not to question that. As a matter of fact, in China, you can question Darwin's theory, no one gives a shit, but you can't question the government. As well, in America and the Western world, you can question the government all you like, but you can't question Darwin's theory. Theory, not fact, theory, right? And a lot of scientists have come out and said, like, he's aware with the kookaburras. Like, there's loads of evidence to prove that Darwin is wrong, right? But if you don't do the research and you just believe what you're told in the fishery, how are you ever to know? Right, so basically, like, there's a hammer as well, right, lads? I'm going to make certain videos in these at certain times, so I'm trying not to drag this out too much. There's a hammer called the London hammer, right? And it was found, a hammer found in stone, you might know of it, right? And if you don't look it up, you'll see. But it's out years, like, it was found back in about 1930 or something. But it was inside in stone, and it's called the London hammer because it was found over somewhere around England at the time. And it's inside in stone, and they're carbon dated that stone and that hammer. Impossible, do the research. That's why when you hear about carbon dating, it's a hit and miss affair. That's how they catch you. Oh, this is a fossil, it was made 100 million years ago. We know, we carbon dated it, and this is what the numbers say. Right? But what about the person who programmed it? What if he programmed this all to give you the illusion, knowing that it was going to come up as 2000, but it really come up as 100 million years ago, and offset it by about 100 million years. I mean, who's to say it? I mean, if you want to control someone, that's how you do it. You put the numbers in and say, this is it, look, and that's what we come up with. Nothing about you fucked around and doing your own little thing, you know, to the computer. And had it set up that way, that it manipulated the maths and it threw out this number. So basically, they carbon tested, right? They carbon dated a snail one time, right? You can get online as well. And it worked out is about 3,000 years dead. And that was taken off a living snail, the bit of shell they gave him. Snail was still alive. Would you believe that one of them big old snails? Still alive. They said he was 3,000 years dead. Right? Another bit of stone they carbon dated, said it was millions of years old as well. Straight out of the lava, fresh out of the ground it came. So there's loads of things that they carbon dated that's wrong. But you won't be told about that because they're trying to control the narrative. You understand that? So they want you to believe everything is millions. That's why I know dinosaurs roam the earth. And there's people have them on caves, they're on drones. They show you them harness them, they have them carved out in stones. People on dinosaurs harness them, like we do to cows and bulls and all sorts of animals and elephants, right? It was done, and it was only thousands of years ago. The mainstream education system, I'm going to call it that, indoctrination system, is trying to indoctrinate everyone. And me as a creationist, and I believe in God, well, I can see through it. But I mean, you can't be brainwashed, because I grew up in school, I was brainwashed too. Even though I was brought up a Catholic and a Christian, still, I was starting to see the roundy globe and the class and the dinosaurs and the apple and the millions and the billions and the trillions of light years away and all that. You see, but when I went to school, in fairness, I wasn't really interested in what they were talking about. Teachers said, you'll be a scholar one day, and I said, yeah. If we just listen, says I, yeah. Put your head in and read in books. I goes, yeah. Then I'd be just like the rest of the fish in the fishery, and I wouldn't be able to think for myself then, would I? I didn't even know what I was on about at the time. But it's something in my mind told me what I was on about, right? I was on about not being brainwashed, so I left room for me to think for myself. So because I didn't absorb all the books and everything, there was a bit of space left in my head for my own, for me to observe what I could see with my own eyes. And what I can see with my own eyes are things like this. When a creature dies in the river, it'll either blow a float to the top. As a fisherman, we all know what the fish do. They'll either blow the float to the top or go down to the bottom. How long do they stay on the bottom? Not very long. And they're eight creatures come in to air them all over the place, right? In a few days, bones. And it all depends where you are. But nothing, even the bones get ate.
According to the typical series of pictures I'd seen depicted in a wide assortment of books, a fish would die, sink to the bottom of a lake, and get slowly covered in layers of silt and mud. Then, as millions of years would pass, the sediment got compressed as new layers gathered. The mud would turn into rock, the fish would become permineralized, and voila, it became a fossil. And so convincing was this seemingly scientific process that I never seemed to compare it to what I'd actually observed dead fish doing, sitting on the bottom of the Atlantic at the end of a wooden dock I'd sat on, feet dangling over the water in Newfoundland. If I'd just taken a few seconds to think about it, I would have easily realized that what my own eyes observed is that dead fish tend to float and bloat. And the ones that were at the bottom were chewed up by crabs and little nippers quite quickly. And even the bones didn't last all that long. I realize now that I'd been taught what to think, not how to think. And I never heard anyone challenge these ideas in class. And like me, due to that widespread evolutionary indoctrination in the school system, most people, even Christians, still believe that it takes millions of years for rocks to form and a living organism to become a fossil.
Hunting, you see the rabbit dead in the field, come back a day or two later, rabbit's not fossilized, but he's ate to death and gone. Same with the fish, he sinks to the bottom, you come back 2-3 days later, he's either torn apart and ate. You won't be fossilized into a perfect fish anyway, that's one thing you won't be doing.
I realize now that I'd been taught what to think, not how to think.
Now, lads, think of it this way. How long would you say a jellyfish would last if it was dead on the beach? About 2 days. When you come back, they usually turn to nothing. After a day in the sun, they shrivel up into nothing. After 2 days, if you stand them tall, they're just nothing.
And this presents an incredible conundrum for evolutionary scientists, because jellyfish decay so rapidly they typically leave no trace whatsoever after a very short time. And the features of the fossil jellyfish discovered are so well preserved they reveal minute details that demonstrate the complexity of the ancient jellyfish are actually very similar to their modern counterparts. That means these fossils formed very rapidly indeed, which means the sedimentary rock they're preserved in hardened almost immediately as well, not slowly over thousands of years. Now, fossils are typically embedded in rock, which means if the fossilization of an organism occurred rapidly, then the rock they are trapped in must have formed quickly as well. And as we just saw, the fossils and rocks I mentioned earlier didn't come about according to the tales I'd been told as a young, naive, and easily influenced student. But the naturalistic indoctrination most people have received is powerful, and sometimes hard to break. Most of us have been told over and over since we were very young that it takes millions of years for large portions of strata we see around the world to have formed. But there's a lot of evidence against that long age paradigm. Similar to our fishy fossil finds, how would that explanation fit with the clock in the rock found in Washington, USA in 1975? Obviously, the clock isn't a millions of years old construct, and the rock it's embedded in was formed after the clock was, which disqualifies it as an ancient fossil relic. So we know that rocks can form rapidly under the right conditions, and we can find evidence of this having happened throughout the world. All those fossils found across the Earth are consistent with rapid catastrophic burial, and the sheer magnitude and worldwide scope of them speak of them as the consequence of the global flood described in Genesis 6 to 9.
Like a jellyfish fossilized, that's supposed to happen over thousands of years, thousands, layers and layers of silk going down over thousands of years. That's what's supposed to happen. And over thousands and millions of years, this is how they're fossilized into fossils supposed to be. But yet there is fish fossilized with another fish going back his mouth. There's loads of creatures fossilized, some even with food in their stomachs.
Like why they've found fossilized animals in the middle of very specific short-term activities and actions, like eating or giving birth. For example, a fossil of a squid-like creature was discovered in the southern coast of England with its arm wrapped around a fish with a head that was crushed. This supposed 200 million year old fossil was discovered in the 19th century, but was recently re-examined and identified as the oldest known example of a coleoid, a class of cephalopods that includes octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish, attacking its prey. It appears that the belemnoid captured, killed, and was about to eat a fish when, according to evolutionary researchers, both animals were buried in sediment so suddenly by a catastrophic event that they were entombed instantaneously, and obviously fossilized quite quickly before decay set in, because cephalopods like squid and octopus turn into jelly quite quickly upon dying.
So it didn't happen over a million years, and if anything sunk to the bottom millions of years ago, even now, it's ate by other creatures. There's loads of different creatures waiting to eat any bodies or carcasses that might sink to the bottom of the river or the sea or a lake. Alright? They wouldn't get time to fossilise over thousands of years. The only way they could is if there was a mass flood, a mass extinction, out of the blue, bam! And then that way it could happen alright.
Noah's flood. When you realize this was a real event, you can understand that the flood would have swept away plants and animals, creating huge amounts of biomass and burying them in waterborne sediments. This would mean many were buried en masse, which would have created huge fossil graveyards, of which we find many around the world. As one example, mixtures of fossils found together of creatures that wouldn't normally coexist in the same environment have also been found in fossil graveyards, like the Messel pit in Germany. Here, fossils of birds, amphibians, reptiles, insects, fish, and mammals are found in the same place. And this once again does away with the old slow and steady evolutionary story that I'd been taught. Not only that, but many of the animals in the pit, some of which are extinct while others are just like those we see in present times, are so well preserved they show color, fur, and food in their stomachs, and demonstrate certain activities like pairs of turtles mating when the catastrophic event that preserved them occurred.
I.e. maybe the flood, Noah's flood. That's why they always hide that as well. Oh, this happened over millions of years. No, it can be seen and it can be proven that all these fossilised in overnight, right? Overnight. What massive flood came through and layered on merciful amounts of mud and pressure down on top of them. That's why fish were fossilised eating other fish. Jellyfish fossilised. Not sitting there for days over thousands of years. You can imagine a jellyfish trying to fossilise, right? It has to sit out there, as I said, in 2 days it turns to nothing. So how's it going to sit there for hundreds of years and fossilise? The only way that can happen again, or anything like that, is it happens pure fast. A big flood came through, then it could turn over the whole fucking earth and the ocean and lay down unbelievable amounts of mud in this matter of a few hours. That would catch fish and animals off guard and trap them in the mud, and slowly it would fossilise. And it only takes 24 hours in the right environment, you know. So look, keep all that in mind anyway, right? So look, this video is here. It's going to be to enlighten you, to give you a look at the world another way, and not always believing what you're being pushed into your mind. And if you, the thing about it is, they don't want you questioning it, or they want to laugh at you. So in school, a lot of people don't question it, because even if they think about it, they want the whole school up in their back, right? So, I mean, of course, I always believed in God, so when I went to the camp, I always had an explanation for why things were the way they were, and, you know, outside of their way of explaining it, I'd explain it through God and creation. Honest, the teachers were intrigued by it, because, I mean, you know, they were young teachers too. They were probably still Christians, not like today. There's very few Christians around the place today. You can take that to the bank, right? And one of the reasons I'm making this video is because take a look around you, people of the world, and know that we are living in the end times, right? Supercomputers are watching everything you do, watching all your transactions. That's why they want you out of the currency. All currency's gone. The supercomputer watches everything. AI and automation are wiping out all the jobs. Automation's taking over jobs, just literally wiping out jobs on a regular occurrence, right? So, then they think, what are we going to do with all these people that don't have work? They'll uprise against us, we better do something with them. Oh, what about we give them a few of them? And slowly but surely, a couple of months, couple of weeks, maybe a year or two later, they'll start dropping. How do we don't know? Stuff that they're just firing out on top of us, hardly tested. You know, you don't know. All I do know is, if you look around, you can tell we are living in troubled times, right? End times are not messing, right? Look at the waste going on out there in Israel. The carry on of them savages, Hamas. The way all the world are siding against. Imagine most of the world are siding with some mass terrorists, right, over Israel. They have this embedded hate in them for Israel. And God says it too in the Bible, you know, that all the nations of the world one day will hate on Israel, you know. Then when they do, when they attack Israel, then Jesus will return. But God calls that his holy land, whether you like it or not, right? It's God's holy land. Simple as. So back to it. Anyway, lads, keep an eye on this video and ask people around you after you watched it. So how long would you say it take to make a fossil?
The rapid burial caused by consecutive water surges and associated layers of sediment preserved and fossilized the animal bodies and even their footprints and other tracks. 2 Peter 3:3-6 states, knowing this first of all, that scoffers will come in the last days with scoffing, following their own sinful desires. They will say, where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all things are continuing as they were from the beginning of creation. For they deliberately overlook this fact, that the heavens existed long ago, and the earth was formed out of water and through water by the word of God, and that by means of these the world that then existed was deluged with water and perished. Noah's flood is the only clear explanation for the great variety of fossils that experts find today, and powerful evidence of quickly buried animals like octopuses and jellyfish, before they could decay or be scavenged, speak of the authenticity of the biblical account. Jesus said, but if you don't believe me when I tell you about earthly things, how can you possibly believe if I tell you about heavenly things? John 3, verse 12. These topics can be used as a segue from the material to the spiritual in conversation with those around you. Why not plan on asking the question, how long does it take for a fossil to form, to someone that you know soon? It may make a great springboard to some great conversations the Lord will use to enlighten someone in your life to the truth of God's Word, especially the gospel message.
Boom, so how's she cutting, boys and girls? How we getting on? Remember someone used to do a trick like that before? What I used to do? Remember as a child someone used to do that. Anyway, how's she cutting, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? How are we getting on today? Majestic day. I want you to keep something in mind here, lads, a minute, alright? I'm going to be putting out a video once a week on this now. I've done this now again, as I said. It's been 10 years or more since I put videos out on this, so suppose 10 years, I mean, people who were like too young to take notice of my videos 10 years ago, if you were 10 or 12, maybe now you're 20 or 22. So you might take notice of what I'm talking about. So basically,